in Lagos. So you can get that information on our website, which is www.brainandbodyfoundation.org. We're giving out free medications, and you'll see some of the videos that we've had for people who have benefited from this. So you stand a lot to gain. So you can share that with your family and friends. All right, we are in this segment or this episode, we're going to be talking about how to thrive with sickle cell disease. And then on our studio today on this episode again is Mrs. Divan Mom.
Hi.
Good to have you back.
Thank you, Doc.
And it's not like you ever went away.
Obviously.
But the last session was really, really good. I think a lot of people benefited from it.
I hope so.
I'm sure they did. And so what we want to do now is really want to dig into your wide experience in terms of living with the condition and just thriving with it, because quite clearly you've done really, really well. You're living your life at your own terms, and you have a child who is also studying her master's now. Mm-hmm. So you have not much to complain about, right?
Actually, I don't. All praises to God, and of course to parents who made sure that I was made to live as normal a life as possible. And growing up, I was very, very sickly. Yeah, but I thank God that I had parents who were firm enough to say, okay, yeah, we know you experience bouts of illness, but that should not define your personhood. That should not be what defines how you live your life. So my parents made sure I had as normal a life as possible, which included doing age and capacity appropriate chores. So I was not allowed to laze around while other people were working. I had to be sick. I had to be on admission to not be doing some chore. Yeah, really? It was that basic, because if I got discharged from hospital today, by the next day I was running small errands. By the day after, depending on how well I was doing, I was back to my routine. Basic chores, yeah.
Wow, so they didn't pamper you at all?
No, not at all.
Kudos to your parents.
Yeah, and if I was not hospitalized, like maybe I woke up with a temperature, I'd get a tablet of Panadol and get sent to school. Yeah. So I quickly learned that I could not, at least with my parents, I couldn't wrap anything around emotional blackmail of, oh, I'm really sick, and My mother was a nurse. She could tell if you were really sick. So if you were not really sick, you were, required to be up and about.
Great.
And it has helped me. It has helped me in my workplace. It has helped me in my home, in my marriage. Like when I had my hip surgery, I'd stand on my crutches and cook.
Wow.
Yeah.
Even your husband didn't pamper you. He still made you do all this.
He didn't make me do all those things. It's what I'm used to.
Right.
So I have to be really, really busy doing something else to sit around and watch, something going on in the domestic space and not get up and
be part of it.
And be part of it. I just don't know how. It's mentally something that I can't do. So I live a very normal life. I live with the reality of the fact that I'm born genotype SS does not mean people who were not born genotype SS are having a stroll in the park with their health. There are people who are diabetic, people who have blood pressure issues, cancer, leprosy, epilepsy, and all. People have health challenges that I wouldn't even want to change places with.
Right.
So I try my best not to get carried away with, I was born genotype SS, and everybody has one thing or another. In fact, there are people who are perfectly healthy that I wouldn't change places with because of other things that are going on in their life. So that's very important.
So I love that attitude, because that attitude does give you a sense of taking charge of your health. And that's really what we want to pass across to our viewers, that you need to take charge. And if you're a parent, don't pamper your kid. Make sure that they understand that it's a difficult world out there, and your parents will not always be with you. And parents, we need to remember that they need to be able to struggle for themselves in certain, of course, within limitations, obviously. I mean, some kids would have been much worse off than what this day with a certain sickle cell disorder condition. Some they just walk a few minutes and they're already having major issues. So we understand that. But understand your kids, see how far they can go and push them. And then when you see you push them too far, you back off, but ensure that they understand that you're trying to prepare them for the world outside, because it's not going to be fair on them.
Yeah, and from my little experience with being genotype SS, even if you do absolutely nothing and just sit around, you will get sick. So you might as well just, get up and live.
Might as well.
Live, play, but within reason.
So let's talk about some of the things that you would advise. At work, we said we'll say a few things about workplace and how to handle it at workplace, but also about what the government, in your opinion, should be, policies that should be in place for where sickle cell disease is concerned.
Yeah. At the workplace, please don't pretend. Don't hide it.
Okay.
Yeah. Do not, for instance, apply for a job and maybe during the interview when they ask you, is there any other thing we need to know? You're like, no, I'm perfectly... No. Let them know that, this is your situation, but then you're perfectly functional. But if you need some kind of support, you can also let them know that this is the kind of support I need to really function, but in every other way, I will not be a liability to the organization. Don't keep it a secret.
So be upfront with it.
Be upfront with it.
Okay.
In my case, I have been very lucky. I've never hidden it, and I've never been discriminated against by my bosses. Now, colleagues who are trying to get one up over you, will go around behind you and say stupid stuff like, are you really sure you want to give her this assignment? She's genotype SS, she might not be able to handle it. But I see that as just being stupid and spiteful, not necessarily from a place of they really believe I won't be able to deliver. So I've never had any issue with organizations or bosses. A few colleagues have been snide and snippy, but that's a function of who they are as people. So,
did you have to take a bottle of water everywhere you went to?
There was a time when I was doing that.
Okay.
And then I would also have the unfortunate and unpleasant task of looking for places to pee. Yeah, and women's fashion is not very forgiving when it comes to things like that. Our anatomy is also not very forgiving when it comes to things like that. So after a while, I jettisoned the water.
Oh dear.
I do what I can at home and just wing it during the rest of the day.
Wow, it must have been tough.
Yeah, it was tough. Like this skirt, for instance, is pretty tight. So imagining being hard-pressed, trying to, and it's not practical.
Gosh.
It's not practical.
That is the life I see. All right, so government policies, what do we need to do? How do we make it a better place for our children and adults living with sickle cell disease? What do you think?
I think right now it's... at the workplace, I think it's okay. There's no, let's say, institutionalized stigma for people of genotype SS.
Okay.
There is a little of it with HIV. Yeah, but we don't see that with genotype SS. So for me, I would be more inclined to say that government should work toward, coming up with policies that ensure that children are regularly tested for their genotype, right from when they're small. Now, when I say regularly, it's because I've encountered situations where people swear that they had multiple tests before marriage, and then after marriage, they somehow produced an SS baby and went back for a test and discovered both of them were carrying the S gene the whole time.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of false, it's an accuracy problem. I mean, the sensitivity problem. Many labs claim they do accurate genotype testing, and the truth is they just don't.
And they're ruining people's lives.
They are ruining people's lives. So I am, in fact, in my opinion, one of the policies I will put in place is that you cannot claim to have a good policy. I mean, you cannot claim to have genotype testing if it's not at least 98.5% accurate.
So whoever is in charge of that, NAFDAC or whoever, maybe these labs need to be, or if it comes to
more, I think.
Yeah, or maybe special labs should be designated
for genotype.
For genotype tests, and they should be available.
Maybe subsidize it too,
and heavily subsidized,
so that people can have access to it. Yeah. I think that's very important. It's causing. I mean, I've had many patients too who come and it's the same blank, bewildered expression that we did this. I mean, educated people, well-educated, well-informed, they will do all the tests and they will still have a child with sickle cell disease.
I actually scolded my doctor when I discovered that his son was genotype SS. I said, dude, you are a doctor, your wife is a nurse. You don't have an excuse. He said, I do. Because when we had our tests before marriage, we were both AA. And they'd already had 4 kids before this one popped up and was SS.
I can do one better than you. I have one of my classmates, both my classmates were both AS, and they I think there was a struggle for a while. Decided to go along with it. But long story for that one. All right, we're going to have to take a break here. We're going to introduce. You're going to see a couple of videos, and we will be right back.
Continue to see. I can't tell my teacher in school.